Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh, and in this video we shall discuss the current affairs and gazette for today, that is 23rd of March 2022. And before we begin this, let me welcome all of you: Amlan, Netra, Kim, Kriti, Hima. Good evening. Pooja, apologize, I'm not able to receive your answer even now, not able to see the content there. Good evening to Ashish, welcome. All right. Answer to your question, Hima, I am not aware about it. I'm not aware if the 85% reservation for the local people will be available for Delhi University or not. See, this has a proposal by the UGC right now. They are yet to finalize this proposal and create the finalized document, right? Similarly, the tourism policy that we are going to discuss right now today in the feature news, that is also the draft tourism policy. So once it is finalized, remember the four-year undergraduate program also introduced by UGC, that is also a proposal right now, and mostly they will work on the same lines. The way this legislation or the policy making works is, government puts the document in the public space after creation of it, and then it seeks inputs, feedbacks, and after some time it finalizes the draft document, which is then converted into a legislation policy, and after that it is implemented with the help of the budget, right? So these nuances are something that we might not be aware of right now. All right. And Amlan's question, yes, of course, Russia's missile defense system is far better than many others, right? This is what multiple reports keep speaking about. All right. So let's begin this discussion. Before we begin, let me point out what a beautiful way in which you people have pointed out these innovative solutions for tourism policy. This is great. This is very, 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 very innovative. That's very good. In fact, I'll also contribute to all this in the feature discussion today, right? So let's begin what this discussion has for all of us today. We have quite a few topics, but yes, before that, after discussion of these topics, or before that, these are the questions that you people have posed to me, right? The questions or the issues that you people are facing regarding the revision and preparation for prelim examination, static portion revision, current affairs and its revision, time management, 3 issues. The fourth issue is CSAT paper handling. Fifth is how to, I think Hima had only posed this question, exam handling, right? While we attempt the trial questions, everything is fine, but in exam, kuch to ho jata hai, batti gul, something happens, exam handling. And then 6th is use of tricks and elimination, and 7th is guesswork. These are the 7 broad categories in which I had distinguished what the problems could be according to what you people had only posed. And what we will serve today is 6 and 7. There is a rationale why I'm looking at question or doubt number 6 and 7 for today, and later on we'll shift to other papers. It is because the one thing that we need to know is what UPSC has been asking, or the closest to what UPSC has been asking for practice. If we know that, that will let us understand what is our level of static portion preparation, what is our level of current affairs preparation, and this is how we will be able to manage time, right? I will show this through some questions, right? How you will be able to handle how much you know about static and current. This is all in relevance to what UPSC has asked. We will not keep dreaming that these are the set of question papers because X and Y, the institute had released these questions. No, those could be close or far from the reality, but what we will primarily look at is 2021 UPSC, 2022 UPSC, 2022 19 UPSC, and going back further, right? Because UPSC asks questions with certain standards, with something in mind, right? And this is where you will be able to understand in static portion also how much weightage must be given to which particular segment, right? For example, polity, there is a way UPSC asks questions. In economy also, there is a particular trend in which UPSC has been asking questions. This is what you will be able to decipher when you look at previous year questions. All right. So, hi Pooja, good evening. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've begun. So when we look at see the problems that we face, yesterday we faced an issue that the class began a little late because of some other issues, 15 minutes late, and then today you're not able to interact properly, right? When people don't know when the class begins and all. We are looking at an ecosystem for current affairs, right? So that it gets facilitated. Right now we only have one platform. Slowly and steadily we will have multiple platforms. There will be better ways in which we can interact. You can share your inputs, right? That will happen, right? So let's continue this. All right. Now, this is the reason that I want each of us to look at 2021 and then after 21, 20 and 19 and then other question papers, so that we understand what has been the trend of UPSC, how much static question it has been asking, what has been the level of current affairs or quality of current affairs questions it has been asking, how do we orient towards that. We do have 2.5 months right now. A lot of things can happen. A lot of things can happen even within a day, within a fraction of 120 minutes. Only that we should know what is the right answer, is it not? Right? So to understand that, some reverse engineering, if we do, we'll be able to understand it, and that will happen when we analyze the papers. And while analyzing the papers, we can also do something else. We can understand how the tricks are used, how guesswork works, and how elimination works. If we do this, we are not only understanding what is the proportion in which we are able to make the guess right, we will also understand what is the quality of UPSC questions for static and current. And once that happens, we will also see how much are we able to attempt, how much each of you are able to attempt of static paper of polity, economy, history, culture, each of them, how much current affairs you are able to attempt in that, or if at all there is a portion of current affairs or not. And then you will be able to manage your time well, right, for the coming 2.5 months. This is how I would like you to approach. This is just an input if you would like to gather something from it. See, now let's look at this question. Under Indian Constitution, concentration of wealth violates. There are 4 options. Next question. I just want you to look at the question right now. What is the position of right to property in India? All these questions are from 2021 prelims exam that was conducted September or October last year. Another question with 4 options. Another question, exact constitutional status of India on 26 January 1950. 4 options. Which of the following best defines the term state? All from 2021. Which of the following factors constitute the best safeguard for liberty in a liberal democracy? Now see, there is something common amongst all the questions, all these 4 questions, 5 questions that I have put here. What is common is the fact that there are only 4 options here, 4 options. There are questions in which you have multiple, permutations and combinations to put. So they become a little tough. The options in front of you actually, they become more than the 5 in number, right? So this is what I would say are the questions with fewer options. And a decent number of these questions also are easier to solve. Primarily because the options are limited. Also, some of them are easy to reply in the first go itself. So when you look at these questions, this is the first level of questions which might be easier, might be, not certainly will be easier, might be. Here, elimination might not work. Elimination might not work because elimination technique works in these questions, right? In these questions, right? So one of you had asked me the question, how to understand how to eliminate question, the options. The vegetation of savanna consists of grassland with scattered small trees, okay? But extensive areas have no trees, so trees are few, right? Forest development in such area is kept in check by ecological processes. Which are the following such conditions? Now, if you people have studied little about savannas, fire, it is fire which happens along the grasslands which ensures that the forests are less in those areas. So fire is definitely one of the options. There are 5 options given. I would like to see which options has, point 2 here. Select the correct answer using the code below. 2. I will select which is the one which has 2, 1 and 2 and 2, 3 and 4. See, these are the only 2 options. So you cut the second and fourth option. Either it is A or C. And burying animals and termites, does it ensure the forests are less here? Or is it grazing herbivores and seasonal rainfall? It is definitely C. Grazing herbivores which ensure and the seasonal rainfall which ensures that the forests are less here, right? So it is 2, 3 and 4. This is how we eliminate the options. But when we come back to these questions with the 4 options, and then you have to eliminate some of the answers, then you straight away strike off what you know is confirmed a wrong option. Best safeguard of liberty in a liberal democracy. Centralization of power. No, it is not. liberal democracy. Elected government, no, even elected governments need not be liberal, right? Committed judiciary, okay, possible answer. Separation of power, okay, possible, but the most possible answer is committed judiciary according to me. I would go with this, right? So these are questions which are easier to spot. You can start seeing what is the proportion, and it is individualistic. What is the proportion of these kind of questions which have just 4 options, and which are the, how many questions are there of this nature which have multiple options, right? Which is easier for you to solve, and how to eliminate the options from these kind of questions. So this is one thing that you should do, right? And you should also start looking at how to eliminate the options. If you know, it is possible that at the end you will come up with 2 options eliminated and 2 options for yourself. Here people usually say, when you are sure that 2 options are eliminated, people usually say you could go for a fluke in the rest 2 options. It totally depends. It is very subjective, but then it totally depends. People generally say one could go for a fluke. It is not necessary. It totally depends on how many questions you are sure of in the examination, right? So this is another thing that you should look at. Another thing I have put here are some questions. For example, ICC World Test Championship, Laureus World Sports Award. Arey bhai, we've not known this. What to do? So you don't have to lose your sleep of mind over all this. Don't lose your peace of mind in the examination or before the examination ki ye kahan se cover kare, how to cover World Test Championship rankings, and then football FIFA rankings. No, and European football rankings, Laureus World Sports Award. No, if you've studied this and if you're lucky, it is good enough. But otherwise, these are the questions which are away from the generic, away from what UPSC usually asks. You don't have to answer all the 100 questions. All you have to look at is answering, say, 60-65 questions effectively correct. See, last year UPSC cutoff was, say, around 90 to 95, not more than this. People also say it is 90. And the year before that also, it was around this itself. This means around 50 questions effectively, if you are correct, if yours is correct, you are through effectively. So all I'm mentioning is that you should start looking at how to make, say, 60 questions pakka ka pakka correct, 100% correct. How to do that? Even if it is not 60, even if it is around 50, so you are around the margin, nothing to worry. But still, even in that case, you should start looking at the previous year question paper and seeing how many you can solve with accuracy, how many you will have to look at some guesswork, and how many are unsolvable. Which regions are they from? If you analyze 5, 6, 8 year question papers, if you analyze 5, 6, 8 year question papers, you will start to know that polity, the fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles, they are asked. If you start seeing economy for last 8-10 years, you must do that. This is your first exercise. You'll start to understand that these current events are rooted in the conceptual events, and conceptual events is where they ask questions from. So you should not be worried about many trends that happen. They might ask economic survey trends also, but the trend usually has been conceptual questions in economy. Suppose your culture is not very strong. Should you study culture right now? You should also look at the percentage of questions being asked from culture or government schemes. I'm just mentioning examples. So once you study the last 8-10 year question papers, and you can even go back, you can reverse the gear, you can go even far behind to see the standard of UPSC question, and you will find a pattern. And after you do that, you have to see which portions are you not very strong at, and which portions you are strong at. What is the percentage of questions being asked by UPSC in that particular arena, right? So this exercise should not take you, say, 2 days at max, 2 days at max. And then when you do this statistical analysis, after that you should start looking at what is the proportion of static portion that you should cover. UPSC syllabus cannot be covered, we know that, no? It is vast as anything. So we should start focusing at what is possible, what is more important, what is urgent, right? And then accordingly we will distribute time for current affairs. Accordingly we will understand how much revision has to be done. Time management will automatically happen once you have seen the previous year question paper and try to understand trick elimination guesswork. So first exercise is looking at the past year question papers. Second exercise is, after this, you will be able to gauge how much time you spend. Along with that, you will also start attempting test series for prelims exam. And Nobody else other than you and your intuition is the best judge of what test series you should be able to attend, because questions are available online. No, everything is available, PDF is available, questions are available, answers are available. Because you have gauged the PYQs, previous year question papers, you will understand which test series is closer to UPSC standard and which is not. The one which is closer to UPSC standard, you will start solving them, start looking at what is the proportion in which your guesswork is correct, and start seeing if you're able to solve 60 questions or not, approximately, depending on the toughness of the paper, right? And once you do this, this is how you should approach. We will also look at static portion, current affairs, CSAT, exam handling also in the coming sessions, right? So this is what I wanted to share. Let's begin our session right now. All right. Let me see if there are questions, something, a lot of people writing something here. Quite a lot of chats here. Okay, Bhavani, are you able to witness what is happening here? Oh, is it so? Okay. Abhi to we have just discussed about prelim examination, some questions that you had asked. You can view that later and we'll get back to you on that again, right? Because it's not complete. Hi Gopal, good evening. Okay, okay. Ashish, thank you for assuring everybody else. Okay. Okay, so it looks like you people are here. Are you guys here? Are you people here? Please message if you people are able to receive me. Just a bit, friends. Just a bit. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you for holding, and let's continue this. So what we had discussed and what you people have largely missed is not much. It is only about pre-exam preparation and some strategies that I had wanted to share with you people. We will come back again at these strategies with updates asking you people only how much you have done. So please view these 6 minutes, 8 minutes, offline later. We have discussed this specific part where we spoke about how to use tricks, elimination, look at previous year question of UPSC prelim examination. This is the best gauge of what is your current level of preparation. This is the best gauge to understand UPSC standard level questions. This is the best gauge to know what is the proportion of static preparation that you must do and dedicate time, how much time to dedicate to each of these segments. So you will not get frantic, you will not get fearful. ये भी नहीं हुआ, वो भी नहीं हुआ, वो भी, even we have to look at here these things also, current affairs is also there. So slowly and steadily you will understand, after understanding the previous year question, what is the level of your depth in static, what is the level of depth in current affairs, and after that only you will be able to know how much time to dedicate. Understood? This is what I wanted to share with you people, and we will discuss. I'm here to sort your problems. So nothing to worry, you have not missed out anything here. Let's get back to current affairs, but do view that part offline later. All right. So in the updates, we have World Day Quality Report. All right. A complete report released by the Swiss non-profit organization, NGO. And the second one is Tapi Narmada liver linking project, of which there's been an issue lately. The economic crisis in Sri Lanka. 3 updates for you people. This day in history dedicated to Shaheed Diwas. There are many Shaheed Diwas. One of them is the day on which the 3 patriots sacrificed their lives, the year 1930. This day in featured news on draft tourism policy. A very interesting policy. We will understand this in featured news. What is about tourism? What is the proportion of tourism contributing to India's economy? How we can boost tourism in innovative ways? What is the complete supply chain of tourism in the country? What are the types of tourism that happen? You people have given quite a few examples. What are the challenges? What is the way ahead in tourism in India? Image of the day is on Eurasian hobby, a bird which has migrated to India. Terms and concepts: the Hawking paradox, wolf conservation in Ladakh region, ExoMars, all Chiki. Right, this is the script for Santali language. And editorials that we have for today: legislative service, Ukraine and a new world disorder. And the third one is on equitable access to essential medicines. Today's case is on the ASHA workers working beyond their scope. So let's begin this discussion. All right. One thing I really respect and admire all the people about, especially those who are participating in the discussion, is the innovations that you have started to use in your answer writing. You people aren't looking at the other person's answer, but then answering before and then looking into others. That's the way to go, because one of you has put Kashmiri carpets, right? And Umangot River in Meghalaya. And the other person has put about GI tags. Good. The third person has put something about multiplier, economic multiplier. Netra, thank you. We had used this economic multiplier word when I spoke about tourism and COVID, economic multiplier. So very good point put here, economic multiplier. Along with that, you people have also put diaspora, utilizing diaspora for the same. Prashad scheme, very good, right? So 13 circuits, absolutely, very good. So that's where I appreciate your participation, right? Great, great. So let's begin. I hope you guys are able to see the video, friends, because I am. Are you able to see the video, friends? Is there some problem? Audio and video, is it fine to all of you? Say a yes and we begin. Yes, thank you, Gopal. Let's begin this. The first update is on World Air Quality Report. This has been released by a Swiss firm, right? IQ Air. And then they have spoken about the developing countries and India in speciality. India, the worst polluted capital in the world, followed by Bangladesh, Dhaka. Right. So some excerpts of this report I would like to just present here very quickly. The report says some important things, some important data about India and around the world. So one of the important things that the report says is India, especially North India, has to the level of 20 times particulate matter 2.5 presence in the air. North India to the level of 20 times WHO's limit. WHO limit is 5 micrograms per cubic meter. 5 micrograms of 2.5 particulate matter, 2.5 micron size and less. But then 5 is WHO's limit, but what is present in North India is almost 20 times this, 95 or 100 particulate matter 2.5. Right? There are times when this particulate matter also exceeds to even 500, 800 and 1999 value. I have seen this multiple times on Air Quality Index website in India itself. The day next to Diwali, we see the records exceeding 999, and 999, it's a pathetic situation because there are no further digits to indicate the level of pollution, right? This is the upper limit of the measuring device. The pollution could have exceeded maybe even 2 times this, and the limit that was declared by WHO is just 5 units, right? The average which has been found in North India has been around 20 times this, right? Particulate matter around 100. And for overall India, it has been found to be around 10 times more than the limit, right? So this is the level of pollution in India. Among the top 100 cities, 63 of cities, and among top 50 cities, 35 Indian cities figure in this list. Among the top 15 cities, 10 of Indian cities are in the list, along with 4 cities from Pakistan and 1 city from China. This is the level of pollution that we are living in. What are the causes of this pollution? The causes of this pollution majorly are development related factors itself, right? So some of these factors are vehicular emission, coal-fired power plants, industrial waste, biomass combustion, and construction sector. These are the 5 important ways in which we are able to pollute and make the air unlivable, especially in northern India, right? And not only that, Delhi is the world's worst air quality region. Delhi is the worst air quality polluted capital in the whole world, followed by Dhaka, Delhi, and then Dhaka, and then there are some countries in Africa as well. This is what is the condition, right? What had happened was that the pollution levels, they had decreased in the last 3 years because of COVID impact. They had decreased in the last 3 years, but this year's COVID, post-COVID, we see a rise in pollution levels, around 20% rise in pollution levels, particulate matter 2.5, and this is not a good indicator. On the other hand, China's cities pollution indicators have decreased in the last 5 years. They have only decreased. This is because post-COVID, when the economy started to rebound, China ensured that the coal-fired solutions, the traditional solutions for energy, they were not utilized, and hence it ensured that the COVID, that the 2.5 particulate matter impact does not deter the quality of air in China. See, the IQ Air report notes that air quality in China continued to improve in 2021. The capital Beijing continued a 5-year trend of improved air quality, which the report says is driven by emission control. Emission control is one, reduction in coal power plant activity and other high emission industries. See, we saw that last year China had said that they would be shutting down industries which are emitting high level of pollution, which are coal powered, right, in inducing solar powered systems. This is the reason that China is doing far better than India. On the other hand, Delhi's air trends, it had become better in the last 3 years, but it has now broken that trend. Now it has become worse than the last year. So air pollution in North India was almost 20 times, as I mentioned, and overall India almost 10 times the average, right? 48% of Indian cities exceeded the limit by a huge margin, right? 10 most polluted cities out of 15 most in India, in the whole world, and 10 of them in India. So what are the cities? Bhiwadi, Ghaziabad, Delhi, Jaunpur, Noida, Bagpat, Hisar, Faridabad, Greater Noida, Rohtak. See, all of these are places which have the impact of industrialization, impact of vehicular pollution, impact of stubble burning, impact of construction, all of them. And what are the Pakistani cities? We have Faisalabad, we have Bahawalpur, Peshawar, Lahore. These are the cities in Pakistan, and only one city, Hotan, in China, right? So top 5 most polluted countries in the world, India figures 5th in the list after Bangladesh, Chad, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and India, and then India. But then the top most polluted capital, it is Delhi. Most of the cities in any country which are polluted, this is India, right? At least in the top 100 we have 63, top 50 we have 35, and top 15 we have 10 cities. So this is where India is figuring out in the list of polluted cities, right? What does it tell? See, right now we discussed only facts. If you remember, we had also discussed sound pollution once, just 2 weeks back in a feature news. Now we are discussing, we've also discussed light pollution. I remember having discussed this in terms of migrating animals. Now we are discussing the pollution that is related to air. They are all indicators of anthropogenic impact on Earth. And you can collate all this data to be able to understand how ecology and environment balance, along with the balance of economy, must be maintained, which we are not able to do very simply, right? Now, this is where, as emerging administrators for the future, you should start viewing whether economy is more important or environment is more important. And if environment is more important, then what are the ways in which environment and economy both can be integrated into each other? That is the reason I ask you of these examples. The examples that you give, they have to be sustainable, right? So green tourism is the way out. This is what the report also says. So world air quality, that means economic activities must be made more sustainable, right? WHO's air quality standard for 2.5 particulate matter, they made it more stringent to 5 units. No, earlier I think it was 12 units or so, something, and now it has become more stringent, making many of the regions around the world, in fact more than 90% of the regions around the world which are habitable, they are being they are not in WHO's safe guideline limits itself, because of making the guidelines more stringent on particulate matter 2.5. All right, so this is another reason why we have more cities here. We have explained here what is the particulate size of different kind of particles and what is micrometer. Deterioration of air quality, challenges, all the challenges that I mentioned: vehicular emission, power generation, industrial waste, biomass, construction sector, and crop burning. All of them are responsible for this, right? And then National Clean Air Program. See, although we have had a new institution right now working in this field, yet we have not found anybody. Yet charges have not been imposed. We have spoken about green app, we've spoken about green war room, we've spoken about green warriors, but yet there is no activism happening, right? So this is something that is concerning, because legislations have been passed but they are not being implemented on the ground. Vehicular emission, biggest culprit. 20 to 35% of total urban particulate 2.5 concentration is directly related to internal combustion engines. In fact, it was pointed that of the internal sources of pollution in Delhi, internal sources, not the external. External means the the air that comes to Delhi from Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, Punjab, and that has particulate matter of the crops. Of the internal pollution, more than 50% of pollution is contributed through the Delhi's vehicular emission. So this is how urban emissions are attributed to vehicular emissions. All right. East Asia, Southeast Asia, and some parts of Africa, the ones which are in brown, those are the places which have worst pollution around the whole world. Particulate matter 2.5. See, why PM 2.5 is considered by this report is primarily because it is the most dangerous, right? Even when you plant innumerable trees, particulate matter is still going to remain there. Particulate matter is not dependent on tree plantation. Tree plantation will only ensure that more of greenery is there. It ensures that more of oxygen is there and less of carbon dioxide is there in the environment. But what about the particulates, small particle matter, the construction particles, the cracker particles, right? The particles, the soot, all of them are the particles which are still present because of the 5 and 6 activities that I have mentioned, right? Especially happening in the developing countries. So this is a part of India's culture, right? That we have got high presence of PM 2.5. Must be looked into. This is the first update. The second update is on Tapi Narmada river linking project. Okay, it's playing for everybody. Sir, how to calculate the air quality index? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Air quality index. See, when air quality index has to be calculated, this was a question that I also had. So when India says at various places that the pollution levels are, say, PM levels are, say, 2.5 levels are 300 and PM 10 levels is, say, 150, say, just example, what India does is India chooses out of all these 8 parameters. There are other parameters also, no? Ozone is there for air pollution. Then we have nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide. Then we have other particulate matter which are present in the air, right? Can you name a couple of them? There are quite a few. There are 2-3 of them, right? I think presence of some metallic compounds are also here. Metallic elements are also here. So out of these 8, whichever of them has got the maximum level of presence, that is the one which is seen for pollution levels. So here, if the particulate matter 2.5 is the maximum present in the atmosphere, this is the most polluting element. There are places where PM 2.5 and PM 10 are less, and the pollution caused by ozone is the maximum. At that place, this is the determining factor for pollution at that particular place. This is what is the criteria in India. right? But then another question you would want to have is that how do we standardize if the 300 and 150 are, you know, the same levels, because the level caused by PM 2.5 at certain level of, you know, presence in the air is different from PM 10. I hope you understand what I am saying. So for this, they have initiated a scaling up and scaling down level as well. So all these pollution parameters are standardized, and after that they are present, and then accordingly only one of them is used to depict what is the air quality in that particular place. I hope it is clear, Gopal. This could be a question. Only one of them. It is not a weighted average. It is not an average. But yes, they are all standardized based on some scaling and scaling up and scaling down. After that, one of them is picked, whichever is the highest. There are places where O3 could be highest. There are places where PM 10.10 could be highest. There are places where PM 2.5 could be highest. This is absolutely true. All right. And then you'd also have one more question. How is it possible that PM 10 is higher than PM 2.5? Is it not true that PM 2.5 will contain all the PM 10? I will answer to this question later. I know the answer. I'll answer to this later. All right. So the second update is on per Tapi Narmada. Yes, thank you, Tyasha. Carbon monoxide, SO2, lead, carbon monoxide, ammonia. Yes, tree plantation can reduce sound pollution. Tree plantation can also reduce level of particulate matter also in some way or the other. See, when we have trees planted at places, they reduce the flow of particulate matter. So indirect control is there, but direct control is not there. All right. Moving ahead to the second update, that is per Tapi Narmada River linking project. So before we get into this project, let me show you the map of Gujarat. Gujarat is divided in 5 different regions which are prominently important, right? So one is Kutch region, the other is Saurashtra, Kutch, Saurashtra, the peninsula, and then we have South, Central and North Gujarat. See? So Kutch largely are those areas where we have the marshy areas, right? Marshy areas, desert topography, right? No vegetation, less of rainfall. Saurashtra region, and this is where Bhuj is also located. Saurashtra region is the one which is the peninsular region of Gujarat, and then we have Gujarat plains also a part of Saurashtra, and also in the mainland areas, South, Central and North Gujarat, right? These are those areas which are not able to receive lot of rainfall. The rain laden winds, they pass across and then they move across the Aravallis and move ahead, right? So largely rain deprived area. However, there are 3 rivers flowing in South Gujarat region. These are the rivers. We have Tapi, Narmada and Per Tapi. Narmada, Tapi and Per Tapi. Per river, right? So the idea has been to link Per river to Tapi and then Narmada to Tapi. If this is done, it results in lesser flow of the potable water, the drinking water in the Arabian Sea, and more utilization of it. So if there are floods, they will be reduced. If there is HEP, that will be created. If there is water diversion for irrigation, that will be done. These are the primary purposes. But then it leads to many people getting translocated from that particular place, and majorly tribals. Through some research, it was found that most of these projects, wherever they get carried out, it is the 90% of relocation is that of tribal people only. Here also the same thing is happening, and for the same reason people are pondering over if this project is sustainable and if this should be utilized or not. The tribals in Gujarat have recently held a public meeting at Valsad to protest against Centre's Per Tapi Narmada river linking project. Now, Per Tapi Narmada linking project is one of the 5 projects that has been approved by the union budget. Now, this is where the locals say that if we have to translocate ourselves from one place to another, our livelihood will get moved, and there are hundreds of villages which will be submerged. The whole ecology of the place would be changed, right? I had recently gone to a place in Uttarakhand, and that place is called as it's on one of the tributaries of Ganga. Okay, we'll talk about it in some other relevant discussions, right? So 250 villages had to translocate, and this is what is happening here as well. Creation of dams, tunnels, a lot of finances and funds being released, but then translocation of peoples, their employment, their sources of livelihood, everything will get changed. Water distribution, excess water in the interlinked Tapi Narmada will flow into sea in monsoons. That is being slow. It will be diverted to Saurashtra and Kutch for irrigation. The monsoon season, the state government Sardar Sarovar will be saved, right, and used for other purposes in urban areas. This is what is the proposal. But then consequences: submergence of the local area, fear of tribal displacement, and that is why this conversation. So this is only an example to you that these kind of projects can cause a lot of damage to local ecology and local life. Kathiawar Peninsula. Thank you, Amlan. Moving ahead to the third update, that is on economic crisis in Sri Lanka. The level of crisis in Sri Lanka has gone to this extent that people, and the inflation has gone to such an extent that the local milk powder, the prices have escalated beyond people for them to purchase. So milk powder, purchasal of the LPG gases, purchasal of basic food items, all of them has become very costly. The local currency, Sri Lankan rupee, has depreciated a lot. The Sri Lankan rupee it equates, the exchange rate is such that 1 rupee, Indian rupee, is around 3.5 Sri Lankan rupees, right? And this has depreciated with respect to US currency enormously, right? Now, the causes attributed to Sri Lankan crisis are many. If you look at the long-term effect, it is because of Sri Lankan civil war. A lot of funds were diverted towards civil war, north and eastern regions of Sri Lanka. This is one of the reasons. COVID was, the last blow, last nail in the coffin for Sri Lanka, because of COVID, a lot of people who were working in Middle East, they had to come back. They had to migrate back to Sri Lanka. The remittances flow were less. Sri Lanka is one of the economies which transports, which has incoming tourism. A lot of tourism happens in Sri Lanka. Tourism got stopped because of COVID impact. Not only that, whatever export Sri Lanka used to, have, so most of it would be tea, coffee, right? Sri Lankan exports would also constitute rice, also constitute, I remember it was rubber, right? They would also export plantation crops. All of this was badly impacted. And yeah, some more examples of what export Sri Lanka would have are textiles and garments around 40%, and tea 17%, other exports spices, gems, coconut, rubber and fish. All these were impacted because of COVID, right? The exports were less, tourism was less, and which led to a lot of problems in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka did not have enough finances to be able to withhold the default in payments, right? So this is what Sri Lanka went into, and because of this, India has started to help Sri Lanka through currency swap agreements, through long-term credit, right? 1.5 billion of long-term credit, 500 million of currency swap. China is assisting them with $2.5 billion. So these are the facts about Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan minister has also come to India to be able to look at ways in which India can help Sri Lanka. This is an update for all of us, right? Sri Lanka is also speaking to IMF, right? How they can be assisted with the help of IMF, and some conditions imposed, some loans given to Sri Lanka, but these are only loans. Why? Because through loans they will be able to survive right now, but they will be importing only more in the times to come. So have a look. Consumer price inflation is at 16.8% in Sri Lanka. Foreign reserves stood at only $2 billion. Foreign reserves. India has foreign reserves of around $650 billion, and Sri Lanka is at only $2 billion. Sri Lankan economy, total trade is around $20 billion. Right? And out of this, import bill will be of $22 billion, which will cause a trade deficit of $10 billion. See, so export will be around 12 billion and the imports will be 22 billion. So this is the difference, right? This means that we are ensuring that more currency, more dollars outflow, dollars are less. That is how Sri Lankan rupee, it will depreciate. I hope that you understand what I am speaking of here. India has got quite a few projects in Sri Lanka, like Trincomalee oil tank farm project. Then India is also running quite a few sustainable development projects in Sri Lanka, solar power projects, sustainable development of real estate projects in Sri Lanka. This is the update from Sri Lanka, our neighbor. So when you look at our neighbor, how we can help them, this is one of the ways. For example, running projects in Sri Lanka, giving them long-term loans. This is how we could help them, right? So this is what we have updated here. Brutally hit, especially because of lockdown, crisis, depreciating Sri Lankan rupee, sovereign default, trade deficit, support from IMF, Indian assistance, 500 million of currency swap, credit lines, Chinese assistance. That's it. Questions, please put. Hambantota, that is under China's control. 30% tourists come from Belgium, Ukraine and Russia. Oh, nice. What beautiful data you have. Oh yes, Hima, absolutely. One good example is, absolutely. See, they're not even able to conduct examinations for students. They were cancelled because there was no paper available. The physical paper available isn't there in Sri Lanka. They are not able to conduct examinations. The LPG is short in supply. There is a shortage of food commodities. There are multiple issues because of which people are not even able to farm well. One of the issues was organic farming. You people have discussed that particular issue as well. So quite a few policies backfired, right? COVID situation, the civil war and corruption, etc. All of those inefficiencies you can always point out. And then also global linkage of economy, people returning back from Middle East, all this. All right, this day in history dedicated to Shaheed Bhagat Singh, Shaheed Rajguru, Shaheed Sukhdev, right? This is the day that they were martyred, or we celebrate their death anniversary as March 23rd since the year 1931. Yes. All right, Lala Lajpat Rai and a blow which was struck on his head, because of which he passed away, and that's why these three gentlemen, they thought they would vouch his death. Feature news on draft tourism policy 2021. We'll discuss about this in the feature news for today. Interesting. I'll be quick in this discussion. Image of the day on Eurasian hobby. This bird has migrated from Europe to Tamil Nadu, right? It weighs 230 grams only. Eurasian hobby. The Hawking paradox. I had to read quite a bit to understand what this Hawking paradox is. Now, see, ideally, any entity is supposed to contain some vital information about itself. Any entity. If I am here, I will communicate something about myself through my body language, through my voice, through what you see about me. But what about the black hole? Anything that enters black hole, will it still be contained? Will it still be able to pass on information about itself? Because it is the most dense particle or entity available in the whole universe. Will it be able to transmit information? So this is where Mr. Hawkins, who's no more, he had said that black hole will be able to transmit information and it will slowly and steadily collapse. It will collapse, it will transmit information, it will collapse, and this is how information possibly gets destructed also. When it is able to collapse and reduce in size, transmit information, it collapses in size, right? So no information can get, no information can, what is the word here? Yeah. Yes, black holes evaporate and they destroy information. So when they evaporate, they destroy information. which is not true. This is a paradox because no information can ever be destroyed. It exists in every entity, right? It can be passed from one place to another. For example, sound, it travels in waves. Light, it travels in waves. Information cannot be destroyed. But when black hole, it slowly and steadily, it condenses, it releases, it evaporates, and then it collapses. So this is like a paradox. This is like a paradox where information is getting reduced with time, which is not possible. This is where scientists now say that they have solved this problem. Information does not get lost. It gets transmitted through quantum hair. Quantum hair. Earlier, it was said to have, black holes, it was said that they would have no hair theorem. That means the information gets lost. But that's not true. In many magnetic waves, these information about black holes is transferred. It is transferred through quantum hair. This is what this update is about. The Hawking paradox possibly has been solved, right? There is no, loss of information. It only gets transmitted with the help of quantum hair. The matter collapsing into black hole leaves a mark in its gravitational field, an imprint referred to as quantum hair. All right. Black holes are among the most extreme and strange objects, right, in which the gigantic stars collapse. Nothing escapes them. This bird looks like it is plotting some mischief. Yep. Falcons. Oh, these are falcons. So falcons are those predator species which predate on other birds. So of course they have to be scheming how to look for their next prey. And contrary to my understanding, I had always thought that falcon species would not be able to move around the Himalayas. Himalayas 8.5 kilometers, almost 9 kilometers above the mean sea level. How would they be able to travel across Himalayas when they are so heavy? Of course, this bird is not as heavy, 230 grams only. But what about the heavier species? Would they be able to move? But that's true. Falcon species also, predator species also migrate long distances, tens of thousands of kilometers. All right. So Hawking paradox possibly solved. Wolf conservation and stupas and insurance. All right, good one. Sri Lanka earns dollar basically from two things, tea and tourist. But during COVID and now Ukraine crisis, both are affected. Okay, yes, tea exports. Thank you. Very good. Okay, nice. Yeah, you people are so good in international relations. Hima says they also bartendering tea with Iran to import oil. If you remember, we had also spoken about trading of rubber, Sri Lankan rubber with Chinese rice, right? One of the old pacts that China Sri Lanka had for associations was the rubber rice pact, RR pact. So this is what they're doing. Why are they trading it? Because they don't have dollars to be able to expend. Wolf conservation, stupas and insurance. Now in Ladakh, see, India, there are around 32 varieties of species of wolf that exist around the whole world, and two of them are found in India. One is the peninsular wolf, the regular wolf that we see, and the other one is Tibetan wolf. And the other, the South peninsular wolf that we see around in India. Both of them are critically endangered species. It is possible that the number of Tibetan wolves that we have is 500 only, and number of the peninsular wolf that we have is around 1000 plus, right? Now, having said that, preservation is important, but then these Tibetan wolves, what they do is that they are again predator species. They prey upon the other animals, goats, llamas, whatever the animal species exist that exist in Ladakh region. So what the local people would do is that they would try to trap these wolf, the Tibetan wolf, and they would kill them. They would stone them to death. So how would they lay the trap? They would put an animal inside, and they would also put some fences over it, right? So as the Tibetan wolf would fall into it, they would not be able to even eat the animal, and they would also lie down. They would not even be able to come back, and this is how they would be stoned to death. So now the Tibetan people there, the local people, what they have done is that they have come up with two solutions. The first solution is stupas, creation of local stupas, and the second solution is giving insurance, right? So in case your animal dies because of the Tibetan wolf, people would collect amounts amongst themselves, say 1000 rupees, 2000 rupees, and say in nature nature fund, they would be able to collect 1 lakh rupees. This amount would be given to the person whose animal has died because of the wolf. On the other hand, they have also said that they would not want to kill these animals, and they have created stupas wherever these animals were killed. Right, the places where these animals were killed, these wolves were killed, would be called as Shangdong. Shangdong. They have created these stupas, relics which could be, where these are heritage monuments created for praying, for religious purposes. So people would stop killing these wolves, right? So this is the update. Good way to conserve nature. ExoMars 2022. Russia along with European Union, they were into this project, and this is where European Union has withdrawn from this project about ExoMars because Russia is not going to participate any longer in this project. Roscosmos, Russian space agency, right? So no participation in Mars program. All Chiki, Santali language and all Chiki script. This is the script you can see on the left side, and now Santali people will be able to read the constitution in their local script as well. This is the update present in the Hindi newspapers, right? So 22 languages in 8th schedule, right? You should remember each of them. They've asked questions on which language was added in which particular amendment act. So this is important. Look at that, right? Santali, one of the important tribes in India, which is the most populated, which is the tribe which exists in highest population in India? Can you name that? Because Santali is not the one. The first editorial is on India needing a legislative service. Remember, we had spoken about an environment service in India, and we already have a forest service, but we spoke about an environment service also in India. Now we are speaking about Indian legislative service. See, this article primarily speaks of the way Parliament Secretariat works. In Parliament, see, Parliament is a body which is sovereign in itself. So is Supreme Court, that is the judiciary, and so is the executive. The executive conducts an examination called through UPSC or through state PCS, and this is how executives are, they are selected. Judiciary also conducts its examination, and so does Parliament. Parliament Secretariat conducts its own examination for admission into the Parliament, the Raj Sabha Secretariat and Lok Sabha Secretariat. Supreme Court also has executive officers in itself, and the examinations are conducted. But what about those officers at lower level, not at the Parliament level? What about the officers who should be operating at grassroots level, at the level of state, at the level of district, at the level of smaller bodies, for example, Gram Sabha level? What about those permanent legislative executives? We don't have any. There is no expertise present, and because of this, the legislations at Gram level, the policy formulation at block level or subdivision level, district level, this all suffers. And for that same reason, we need to have Indian legislative service. See, it is very easy to understand. A DM or an SP are ground level officers of the central government, of the executive, ground level officers. Why don't we have such ground level officers in Parliament or through Parliament? There should be. This is where the article says we must have Indian legislative service. See, the article primarily bases its context on Secretary General. See, Secretary General largely is, so Secretary General of the Raj Sabha or the Lok Sabha are the highest level officers in the Parliament, right? And the Secretary General ideally should come through promotions from Parliament Secretariat, but they are not. But it doesn't happen so. Many of them are nominated by the government. This should not happen. Why? Because the parliamentary procedures, the precedents, all of them have to be seen, right? Not only that, these are, what is required is, a person who is trained. What is required is a person who is specialized in these services. So this is why we cannot have nominations in these higher bodies. Also at grassroots level, we should have a service like Indian Legislative Service. So increasing the legislative awareness in the country. If legislative awareness is there, start linking these articles. If you read about Tapi Narmada project, if these legislative are there, then these kind of deliberations between people will be far sorted. Bhil community, yes, thank you. Pooja's language is Maithili. Nice to know, Pooja. Okay. Okay, Gopal says, sir, what is currency swap? Hima says, I also read now people are coming to India as refugees. Yes, people from Sri Lanka have started pouring in India. Absolutely true. Lathi charge. Thank you for mentioning that particular part, Pooja. Thank you. Okay, so what is currency swap? Gopal, we have discussed currency swap as one of the terms, I think 2 weeks back. Currency swap is where two countries, they say we will swap whatever currencies that we have with each other. For example, if India has some rupees and Sri Lanka has rupees, if India has Sri Lankan rupees, they would like to conduct these kind of swap agreements so that Sri Lanka does not default on payments. If India can also give Sri Lanka some dollars in exchange of Sri Lanka returning some rupee to India, this is another way in which the swap occurs. So basically, to save Sri Lanka from any crisis, right? Even if it is about dollars, even if it is about rupee payment, right? In case India gives them dollars and Sri Lanka gives them back Indian rupee, this is also not good for India. You know why? Because India is already going through high levels of inflation, and India is already in the process in which it is releasing more dollars in the market through its foreign exchange reserves and sucking in more rupee. So, although India is helping to some levels, $500 million of currency swap has happened, but this is not sufficient to bail Sri Lanka out. Okay. The second one is on equitable access to essential medicine. All right. We understood and we understand this article very well. This is about India and South Africa, both of them appealing at WTO forum, saying that one should not only be able to have vaccine availability, right, and some level of exemption from the developed world, but also passing on the technology for equitable access of vaccination. See, we've discussed this. If European countries or if USA are able to give waiver to India and other developing countries to be able to develop similar vaccines, this is not enough. Waiver is not enough. WTO waiver is not enough. They also must provide technological know-how, right? Give finances, set up industries in India and other developing countries. This is what has been the requirement of these developing countries, right? This is what they are fighting for. So giving a waiver is not enough, and waiver is also what these developed countries are fighting. The third update is on world disorder. This is a very beautiful editorial. It speaks about the disorder in the whole world. It says that USA, lesser trust. It has garnered lesser trust with time amongst European countries, amongst Asian countries again. Europe itself is in a state of turmoil. Why? Because it is not able to help its own one of the European countries, right? Again, two countries, and we know about Russia. Russia doesn't know why it went into the war, because it is again getting impacted very much with the war. So the editorial says two countries here are at the center, India and China, and both of the countries have had an ambiguous stand on this war. They are not even asking Russia to refrain from war. They're not also on Russia's side. What is their stand? This is where the editorial says that the big powers like Russia, like USA, like countries in Europe, which have indulged in many wars, these are developed countries, the countries with maximum resources. These people have always lived under an illusion that if they impose a war on a weaker nation, it is they who will always come out winning, which is not actually true. Russia, USA, USSR or European countries, they would not always win wars against the weaker oppositions. Take for example the war in Afghanistan, the war in Vietnam, the wars in Africa. Have these countries won? The war in Syria, have they won? No. What are the reasons? Some of the reasons that have been given why these countries did not win wars are worn out political will, ideological rootings. For example, ideological rootings, one of the example is uh, we will not fight where there is a humanitarian crisis. This is an ideological rooting. We will not fight people who are pro-democracy. Ideological rooting. This has cost them. This has cost the developed countries at places. Right? War, not political will. Right? What are the other causes? Degree of freedom. The degree of freedom with the minority or with the smaller nations is far wider. Why? Let me give you examples. Guerrilla warfare. The smaller nations conduct guerrilla warfares. Right? They conduct warfare in which they target civilian. This is where the editorial says that Russia also is doing the same, guerrilla warfare, targeting civilians. So how is it different? Then it also provides more points of how the smaller nations actually are able to survive this kind of onslaught. It says that all right, yes, practical difficulties of waging a war, using the weapons, all the kinds of weapons are not getting used at all places. Right, practical difficulties in waging a war, right? United Nations imposing sanctions, Russia's own limitations, swift payment networks, all these are practical difficulties in which the bigger nations are not able to impose a complete war on the opponent. So this asymmetric war is not something in which the country which has got the economic might or military might, it always wins, right? Then who does win? This goes into a very, very bad situation for all the parties, and this is where India and China can take advantage, right? So editorial says quite a few things about this. It says a country which is a superpower has both the things. It has got the ability to impose war. It also has got the ability to absorb and withhold any impacts of the war. Russia itself is demonstrating that it has got major impacts of the war. Russia itself has declared it has got major level of civilian military casualties, yet it is facing the impact. So Russia might be confused, but countries like India and China are not confused about this war. They very well know that at the right time they will impose themselves by indicating to Russia or the world order what is that India and China are looking forward to. And this is where Chinese foreign minister, they have also thought of coming to India and meet India. So both the countries are in a very, very strategic position, and this is going ahead of the developed world, which always thought that asymmetric wars winners will be the developed countries, which is not so. So state of confusion around the whole world. Today's case study is on working beyond the boundaries. ASHA workers and health workers, they have worked beyond boundaries or beyond their own capacities during COVID times, and one of the ladies has also been awarded COVID Women Warrior Award. How would she be awarded this? She should go out of her traditional area of operation into dense forest during COVID times, right? And she would also provide cooked food to people, right? Provide antenatal and postnatal services to people during COVID times, despite despite the fact that COVID has been deadly and it has also taken lives of many people. These ASHA workers never back down. So this is how we see how people are able to help each other during tough times and be more generous during these times, right? It is under the greatest adversity that there exists the greatest potential for doing good, both for oneself and others. See, the greatest adversity, last year COVID was there during the main examination, right? Just in January, the wave of COVID, and then this was the greatest adversity for those people who have been preparing for years. But then this was also greatest potential for doing good for yourself and for others as well. You people are preparing for the examination through which you can do good for others. So the thing to communicate is that whenever you see a great adversity is a time of great challenge, and great challenge creates people who can create opportunity. So look at every challenge, every adversity from another perspective. It becomes a challenge, and even wider perspective, it becomes an opportunity for you to grow. So if you have 2.5 months left, create an opportunity for yourself. Look at the initial part of the video. You will be able to understand what I'm speaking of, where I speak about how you should strategize the next 2.5 months, only to begin with the previous year question, and then we will sort out the rest of it because we meet frequently, right? So if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. We will quickly meet in the featured news for today, that is on the draft tourism policy, right? Hi Astha, good evening. All right, so let's meet in the other video for featured news. Thank you for participation.